God understands every language. Do you know why? The simple truth is because the language of God is the language of life. And because the language of God is the language of life, God is love. And love and life are always found together. They are inseparable. To say love is to say life. And to say life is to say love. But I want to begin something that I don't know if you will agree with me. I don't know if there is anybody here who has a problem with admitting that life begets life. Does anybody have a problem with that here? You can speak up or speak no more. I'm so happy that your laughter means yes. That your answer is yes. That life begets life. But this three-word statement would need to be unpacked. Life begets life. That life brings about life. From life we get life. From life another life arises. We need to open it up to really wrestle with it, to grasp with it, because not many people understand that in our world today. Because if many or all people understand it, there wouldn't be a special group called the pro-life group, for crying out loud. It is because not many people share this wonderful idea. That is why we have to be the people who stand in advocacy for life. So, if life begets life, and if you have permitted me to help unpack this statement, I want to invite you all to imagine human life, because the life we are talking about, of course, other lives for sure, but we want to focus on human life, because if we don't get human life right, it will be difficult for us to get other lives right. Because human life is the one that attaches to us. Human life is the one on which we stand to claim authority on life. So, let's for a moment focus on human life. And I want to invite you to imagine human life like a huge, big book. Imagine the human life as a book, very large book. And imagine this book to have several chapters. Also, imagine these chapters to run into pages. And of course, the pages of the book will also mean that there are contents in each page, just like you have here. That things are written on it, texts inside this book, having chapters. Now, books, big books, are written in chapters or sections or in parts. And when they are written in chapters, sections or parts, they also have run into pages. Let me check the number of pages here. This is 1,084 pages. And that is the missile we have. But just assume that human life is like this. So I'm using the metaphor of book to explain why life begets life. Now, since we are beginning to agree that human life is a book, and the book is into chapters, and the chapters have pages, and the pages have contents. Okay, think of it that perhaps this book, somebody comes and begins to tear out some of the chapters. And in tearing out some of the chapters, the person maybe tears out a whole chapter or some whole chapters, or come in certain chapters and tears out some pages or divide certain pages, mutilates the book as a matter of fact. And then come back to imagine, to bring it to the real world, where, for instance, sometimes, because the chapters in the book that I want you to imagine could be considered as each individual's life. So that at any moment we play a role in doing away with life. We are like the person who comes to tear a particular whole chapter, or we assist in demeaning someone or making someone's life miserable or undignifying someone. We may be ones tearing out certain sections of certain chapters of the book, or even trying to cancel out certain things, certain contents of certain chapter. So if that is the case, if that could be used to understand life, then it means that if life begets life, that we all are here today because our parents or some of our older relatives who could have chosen not to tear us out from life. They could have chosen, but they decided not to. That is one point. Life begets life, and because life begets life, it is possible that some people could have chosen to tear us out, like we hear pro-choice. So the ability to choose, is possible to choose to expend another individual's life, but some people chose not to. And because they chose not to, that is why we are here. If they have chosen to tear us out, perhaps because of their some personal comfort, most times people give reasons why some people shouldn't live or some people shouldn't be called human beings. You know the argument? Yeah, some people choose that. So if they have felt that we are unwanted, if they have felt that we can be discarded, if they felt that the eject or reject button can be pressed and life can move on because of the good reasons they think they give, comfort in life, maybe fanciful, fashionable ideals. Maybe you and I would have only existed in the mind of God. And perhaps some nice accomplishments that would have come to humanity, courtesy of us, would have remained in God's mind. So, that is one, that life begets life, and because life begets life, people chose not to eliminate us, and that is why we are here. But we know that there are people who choose to eliminate life just simply because they want to be comfortable or because they share some fanciful, comfortable life ideas. And so because of this, we can notice that our lives today were possible on the basis of the life of some other people, maybe our parents, maybe older relatives, those who adopted us, people who picked us up, and so on and so forth. So that shows that somehow, if we think deeply of it, we will notice that we all are being called to lay down our lives for others. And that is what Jesus meant in the gospel of today. Because today, Good Shepherd Sunday, we hear it all the time. Why would Jesus identify himself not just as a shepherd, but as that qualified as good. It means that there are some shepherds who may have not been shepherded well. And so their title could as well be bad shepherds, because that is why Jesus is the good one. So for us to notice the bad ones, somebody has to play the good shepherd. And Jesus is the good, he identifies himself as the good shepherd. But Jesus didn't stop there. Jesus wants to characterize for us how we can understand or recognize a good shepherd. He repeatedly, if you go back, read the gospel, he repeatedly used this word. The good shepherd lays down his life for his sheep. He kept repeating it, laying down life. Just like people who gave birth to us or who picked us up, laid practically, it is a kind of laying down life, because if there is nobody to conceive you, you wouldn't be. So it is like having that foundation. We stand on the life we have today, on the foundations, on the laying down of the life of other people who chose to have us. So we started off somewhere, and that is the laying down. And they didn't stop there. They also gave time to nurture us, to see us grow, and perhaps offered us materials, instruments, resources to flourish. And that is why we can sit here and claim, yeah, pro-life. But before this year, pro-life, we didn't know where we were. Maybe for the first 1 year, 2 years of your life, you really don't have a sense of self somehow. So your sense of self depended on the lives of those who were around you. And so if that is the case, then it means that we are both receivers of life and givers of life. It has to be both ways, that we received our lives from the care, from the nurture of some other people, and then we owe it to life, to sustain other lives by also giving life. It's not a question of choosing one. You receive life, but giving life becomes a problem for you. If you do that, you are stingy. You are selfish. Let's use I'm not politically correct and I don't want to be. You are stingy because people want to paint the nice picture, people don't want to hurt, and so on and so forth. And that is the clear problem we have in our world today. Many words have become problematic because many people feel they are being offended or they are being hurt. We choose the N word and the F word. Very soon all the alphabets will be cleared out. We won't be able to talk, but we know that human beings are talking animals. Part of our property is to talk. So if we are choosing the N and F and all that, very soon we will delete all the letters and we will be zero. I don't know where we are getting to. But the thing there is, we are talking about life. And Jesus says to us, I am the good shepherd. And he's telling us, if he's the good shepherd, he also wants us to shepherd as he is shepherding. Because if we say we are Christians, we are following Jesus, it means that we should reflect, we should embody Jesus in our world today. Yes, it is true, the culture of death is trying to silence us and pushing us at the margins. That is precisely why we should shout it on top of the roof. Because it wasn't even easy for Jesus during his time. He was constantly walking against current, and he never promised us that it will be easy. He said, if you want to be a follower of mine, what should you do? Pick up your cross. Our cross is life. To tell people that life is possible and life is available. And we are the ones to engineer it. We are the ones to make it happen. And then come to think of it, let me just digress a little bit. I hope we are not in a hurry clocking today. Are we clocking? Are we clocking? Never, because this is life. I'm just saying that they should bear with us that we have to blow grammar today. It is English. We call speaking English blowing grammar. Because ordinarily we gather normally to really talk to ourselves in our own language, speak to God in our own language. But today, because we also have a wider audience, we should embrace everyone just like life embraces all of us. So I want to digress a little bit because I said at the beginning of the Mass that this is Easter. This is our Easter. Today, we know that we have been celebrating Easter. We are still in Easter season. But for us, this is the first time we are gathering together as an Igbo community to celebrate. So I want to go back to even the Easter event to show that it is all about life. Through the pages of the scripture, it is all about life. But I want to just see if I can put it together, cut it a bit short. I'm someone who talks a lot, so please don't mind if I'm taking too long. But the thing there is, if you begin from Holy Thursday, what Jesus did on Holy Thursday, Last Supper. Is there anybody here who perchance attended the summit of new evangelization? Good. There you go. I'm happy. One of the points made there, I'm trying to remember the name of the professor who did that, one of the speakers who did that, but it's very interesting that you notice that he was talking about the fact that Holy Thursday is not just a meal. It is not just, we call it Last Supper. It's not just a meal. Because if Holy Thursday is simply a meal, it means that Good Friday will also be an execution, that Jesus was killed. It will simply be killing of Jesus. And there wouldn't be any theological significance to it. But what marks out Holy Thursday as not just a meal, but a Passover. And usually Passover recalls the fact that that God liberated, of course, when I say Jesus God, there's no difference. Yeah. So that God liberated the Israelites from their slavery in Egypt. So it is like the instruction the angel gave, when I see the blood, I will pass over you. So Jesus was transforming that meal of Passover to become something. But it is something that didn't just stop on Holy Thursday. It continued on Good Friday. And that is why Good Friday is not just execution that the Roman military guys was ordered by Pilate because the Jews wanted it to kill Jesus. It is not just that Jesus was killed, that Jesus died that day, but it is a sacrifice. And you know that sacrifice is something you undergo or choose to forego because of what you are, the future, what you are looking forward to, a greater good that you want to advance or you want people to see. So it now becomes not just an ordinary death that somebody was called a criminal and was shot or killed, as this case may be, but the fact that connecting what happened on Good Friday with what happened on Holy Thursday tells us that Jesus is widening the picture of salvation to not just be the fact that the Jews crossed the Red Sea or that the angel passed over them in order to eliminate their enemies, but the fact that Jesus is doing something that will continue to make life remain and flourish. And connecting that to is the empty tomb of resurrection, Easter Sunday. So that these three events come together as a whole package. So, if you think that what we are doing every day when we gather at Mass, of course we know that the Mass is like the center of all that we do as Catholics, at least, then we should understand Mass that way, as what Jesus began on Holy Thursday, continued on Good Friday, and consummated on Easter Sunday, the resurrection. And that is why the Easter candle is here, and that is why here we could have this lovely artwork that continues to remind us of the life that Jesus has given to us. So, the summary of what I have all said here, if I have bored you, is simply this, that life begets life, and that we should be ambassadors of life. We should promote life wherever we are, however. And you know that today people may think, oh, we've not committed abortion, we have not aided somebody in committing abortion. Somehow too, when you get married, when you have family and choose not to have human kids, but you will be very comfortable having animal kids. I'm not against animal rights or left, but I mean, it's also another way of not choosing life. You marry, you are comfortable, but you say, oh, we don't want human, they say they don't want kids, but then people don't want human kids, but they are comfortable with animal kids, of course, which is okay, I don't know. So the thing there is, when we are doing things that degrade life in many ways, we are telling Jesus that he was stupid to have died for all of us. That is the only way to understand it. I'm sorry to be very blunt, but I can only be blunt in the house of God because this is where you have the greatest protection. Yeah, so it is simple. Life, life. Life. And to bring the homily to a conclusion, I know that in North America that we have Mother's Day, in North America in May, but in Nigeria we usually have it in April. As a matter of fact, the right day to celebrate Mother's Day is any Sunday closest to 25th of March. Because 25th of March is the feast of Solemnity of Annunciation, when Mary became mother, Angel Gabriel came to her and said, you would become the mother of God. And one more thing, I just remembered Mary now, I'm sorry I'm putting it long. One more thing, in talking about life, is the fact that I emphasize the laying down of life. But there is also the fact of willing that life comes, and also accepting life when it comes. Because somebody may be ready to lay down his or her life, but the person doesn't, just like people who will marry and say we choose not to. Not that natural occurrences made it impossible for them to have the kids of their own, but just that they said we are not going to get them. There will be nuisance in our lives. We want to enjoy our life the way we want to enjoy it. Some people, the willing has to be there. And then attached to the willing is to accepting life by showing whatever life that comes our way, love, care, concern, and so on and so forth. So, back to what I wanted to do to conclude this, because I want to give it, I'm not saying that dads are the worst, but I want to say that with moms, we have that place where God begins to nurture us first, before ever we come out, and then dads would help and do the rest of the stuff. And of course they give the psychological, emotional support even while we are still in the womb. But for the fact that God even could choose to allow himself to be in the womb of women, of a woman, and by extension all women, and giving it to them as their duty to bear us and bring us forth to life, I want us to sing a special song to moms. Are you ready? Yes. I will sing it in Igbo language. This is your tutoring class for those who don't know Igbo language. You easily learn by singing. There are so many of you who sing songs that you don't know the language, but you enjoy the song anyway. As you enjoy, I'm sure, some of the songs that we've sang here. Mama.